So now we're going to inspect our animal. This lesson is on inspecting the carcass. We've removed the hide. We've got the body temperature cooled down on that segment. So now we're going to actually look around here and see what we've got. We've got a nice skin forming, but we have some bloodshot here in this front leg. This right here is the flat iron steak. So it looks like that's going to be messed up or missing. And of course, again, we don't always get the best shot placement. And it looks like we've got some bloodshot here and definitely over here. So when I say that we need to inspect the animal so that we can determine what's going to happen, if I was planning on using those front legs to put in a slow cooker, a big crock pot, and cooking that and pulling all the meat for Super Bowl Sunday for barbecued venison, well, that ain't going to happen because of that shot placement. If I shot the animal through back here, that's the prime rib. If I was planning on making a crown roast on this animal, it's usable, but if I had poor shot placement, I wouldn't be able to use that. So, you know, we've shot sometimes through the hind round or into the tenderloins, or if the animal was gut shot and everything was spilt inside that cavity, I'm not going to use that. So inspecting the animal by getting the hide out and getting the insides out, we can then start making decisions on how we're going to process this and fabricate it. And there's all kinds of decisions that we have to make. From when I'm in the field and I got an elk down and I got to take it out by quarters, I'm going to cut it up different in the woods than if I would if I was hanging it here in camp. So we look at this, we got a little bit here, hide here. We've got, this is split down to the pelvic bone. This is the most abused muscle on the animal right here. This is the inside top round. Many people cut down to the pelvic bone and they try to get through the pelvic bone. They don't find the seam, they start hitting their knife with a rock and they break their knife. Or they pop through that seam, they hit the anal tract and the bladder, and now we got all of smart pills all over the tenderloins. So I don't really break that down. You know, if I'm going to do anything, I'll cut it like this. But this piece here, what happens is this gets exposed because we're cutting right through here by the pelvic bone when we do some field dressing. And then if you split that pelvic, the legs flop open. If you drag that anywhere, that muscle, then it gets exposed to the dirt and the pine needles. And if you're hunting where there's cattle, now that's exposed to cow pies, and now you got E. coli on your meat. So we want to always keep that nice and clean. If I was working with antelope, you could go like this and literally pull handfuls of hair right out of them. It just comes right out. This is nice and clean. There's hardly any hair on here at all. So keeping the carcass clean, keeping it cold, getting that skin on there, and getting the hide off. To inspect this, we need to inspect it and then determine now we can't use the ribs. I wanted to use the ribs, but that's not going to be usable right there. And we don't want to, you know, leave that bloodshot in there because that'll sour the meat. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next lesson.